Hey guys, welcome back to All Things Outdoors. So I came across a little bit of down and I decided there's a project that's been kind of weighing on my mind that I really wanted to try to accomplish to maybe expand on my DIY camping experience. And that was a top quilt. Specifically, I wanted to try to make a 0-degree top quilt with some pretty thick baffles, some heavy down, just something that makes you warm in super cold weather. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Bumblebee's new friend, my 0-degree top quilt. I made a top quilt that's roughly about 5 feet 10 to 11 inches tall, just a couple inches short of my top of my head. And also I decided that I wanted to be a little wider in case I wanted to use a ground pad. With that in mind, I made it about 56 inches wide. The baffles that I installed in it were about 4-inch baffles, but basically what I went and did is I did overstuff the foot box by about 3 or 4 ounces of 800 filled down. So that's the one thing I wanted to make sure doesn't get cold. My lap's already getting warm. When I was coming up with the design for this, there was a couple things I kept in mind. One, the bottom of my quilt really does nothing to insulate me. When you smush down the down underneath you and it takes out all that loft, cold air just could shoot right through there. So with that in mind, I didn't want to waste the down that I was putting in it on the bottom. Hence, no baffling on the bottom. It's strictly just a piece of 1.1 ripstop. Now this stitching right here, I'm going to go ahead and explain to you. Now with keeping it in mind that the insulation on the bottom gets smashed down and it's for the most part pretty useless, there are times in a hammock that I will use a foot pad and put in my foot box. Still stinking hot, goodness gracious. There are times that in a hammock, my feet will get cold, and that's the one thing I hate. So I'll actually slide my backpack pad into my foot box. I can actually say 99.9% of the time that I put my foot pad in the foot box, I usually wake up with the pad on top of my feet versus under the feet. Drove me nuts. There is one type of innovation that I really wanted to keep in mind. If I was going to go with this design and not utilize the bottom with down, but I know I'm going to be using a foot pad, I created a little pouch on the inside of the foot box to slide my pad in. That way it actually stays in place. Let me show you here. With the top quilt turned inside out, you can actually kind of see how the pad's just going to sit nicely in place. And actually, even if you didn't want to use your backpack pad, maybe some people would rather put their down jacket inside their foot box. The pocket could be used for that as well too, and completely keep it in place. So you wouldn't even necessarily have to wrap your jacket around your feet, but you could shove it in the pocket and it's not going to go anywhere. Let's turn this thing back inside out and I'll show you the rest of it here. A couple other things I added. One was a collar snap. Now I didn't add the shock cord to draw down the top. I personally don't like having things tightened around my neck and shoulder area. That's just, I don't know if it's a claustrophobic thing or what, but it's just not a preference. As of right now, I kind of feel like the amount of down and the way that it tucks in is going to be pretty solid. So the other thing I added was ground pad loops. So just some shock cord and oversized cord stoppers. I can use the cord stoppers as a toggle and then it can be drawn down. Now, the foot box is a little bit elongated. I went to about my upper thigh. I feel like sometimes that space is not utilized. Some people may not like it. They may not like that claustrophobic feeling, but there's plenty of room in the design that I made as far as the foot box area, and not to mention it's really going to keep that tucked underneath you. Now the loft, I've got at least 3 3/4 inches of loft all around it. There's areas that are about 4 inches. The one thing I did struggle with was getting the down measured and putting into these baffles. That was a mess. In fact, I'll probably be cleaning up that mess for a while. I mentioned before about the foot box is a little heavy. Again, it was a decision between buying 3 or 4 ounce booties or just putting the extra 3 or 4 ounces of down in the foot box. So overall weight of this is a little heavy, but the reason being is because I have it stuffed to, hypothetically, a 0 degree top quilt. It's a little over 2 pounds. That being the cheaper, less lofted down, it's going to add a little bit of weight, and not to mention I didn't go light on the down. Usually if you're hiking in the winter, I'd rather carry about a half a pound more than be cold. Alright, so what does it look when I get inside it? Let's check it out. You can tell the loft is absolutely massive on this thing. It is going to be pretty stinking warm. Hi, buddy. Yeah, no, you can't get in here. You can't get. It's already hot enough. I'm about dying. Get out. What are you? Okay. With the foot box that comes up a little higher, it actually really kind of keeps it tucked underneath you. I don't have to constantly mess with it. Then if I actually add the option to these ground pad loops, it's really going to draw down and keep it tucked. But as of right now, I'm not doing anything extra. It stays in perfect. I have a good probably 6-7 inches. I can move my feet around on the inside, so it doesn't really give me that claustrophobic feeling. It feels completely comfortable. I honestly couldn't be more proud of this quilt design. I almost feel like this is a complete game changer. In fact, actually, I can't wait to get it through some rigorous testing. I already did some testing in the house.
Dad, it's hot in here. Dad, can I get out?
Dad, it's getting hot. Can't feel my legs.
However, controlled environment, really wanting to find out if it's truly 0 degrees, I need to get outside. So be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't. If you're curious about this quilt, I will be having it coming up in probably an overnight trip. I know I'm going to be doing some more testing with it. And next video I want to do with it is waterproofing the top quilt. So none of this down is the waterproof down. So I'm going to treat it to make it waterproof. Does it work? Stay tuned and find out. Till next time.